So I feel like I should start calling this fraud, fraud, and more fraud, but essentially we're going to talk a little bit about recent events in crypto, blockchain, securities law issues that have come up over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the biggest one is going to be involved with FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried. Going to share my screen, um, and so he was extradited back from the Bahamas. He's out on a $250 million bond, and I guess living with his parents or something in Palo Alto, with some upcoming court hearings. He pled not guilty. So the biggest news is that a couple of people turned on him and are probably going to testify against him in exchange for not going to jail. They haven't been sentenced yet, but Carolyn Ellison and Gary Wang pled guilty February 22nd to securities fraud and essentially saying that everything that they said was true, that Bankman-Fried knew everything that was going on. He was using FTX exchange customers' money to cover basically an unlimited line of credit with Alameda Research without any collateral. And they could just basically trade with that money, which was FTX exchange customer money being loaned over. So they, basically pled guilty to wire fraud, conspiracy, commodities fraud, and they'll be sentenced. The potential is up to about 20 years each, but I think the maximum sentence up to 5 years or 20 years. 20 years for her, 5 years for him, but they're probably going to get probation and other stuff because they're cooperating with prosecutors. And the SEC also filed charges against them, but they're basically the same type of charges that were filed against Bankman-Fried for securities law violations. And some of the facts are the same as in the Bankman-Fried complaint about using customer money, defrauding investors to raise money by lying about what was going on with the business, spending customer money on, their own personal houses and living expenses. So it's almost the same as the one against Bankman-Fried, except it's Carolyn Ellison and Gary Wang, asking to basically prohibit them from ever being involved in dealing with investors, raising capital, returning all the money. So that's a couple of things that have happened recently. They'll be sentenced probably in the next few weeks. The transcript of their plea deal has not yet been made public. It's still under court order for at least a few more weeks. But it sounds like, she, according to the press, said she was sorry for what she did and that everything that they said is true in some of these complaints. So the other thing, too, that has come out is just yesterday, February 4th, is that the SEC charged a crypto scheme, or I guess it's a blockchain, with a $45 million fraud. And this took place in Michigan. And basically, they used investors' funds to buy cars, real estate, a boat. Let me pull up. I have a copy of the complaint also that was filed against them. There's a criminal indictment and then the securities law complaint. This is the securities law complaint from the SEC against these different individuals over here, Neil, Gary, Michael, essentially saying that the main guy, Chandran, has violated securities law before, and he's a convicted felon, saying he owned unique blockchain or crypto technology worth it was about to be sold for trillions of dollars. So investors, if you put your money in, I just need some money to get by until this transaction closes, and you're basically going to get 1,000 times return on your money. So you put in $1, you're going to get $1,000, something like that. It was just an outrageous claim. It was called Coin Deal, and they actually, over the last about 4 years, came up with this scheme and raised about $45 million from investors, and it went into their different entities, and then they basically just spent it on whatever they wanted. So I'm sure the money's probably mostly gone, but they are being criminally indicted and being sued by the SEC for disgorgement, penalties, etc. So they'll try to get the money, whatever money's left, back. And I guess the main guy, Neil Chandran, currently imprisoned in Nebraska, awaiting a trial for something. So obviously, people didn't really do much due diligence on this investment, unfortunately, and they just saw some huge opportunity and put tons of money into it. But most of the people involved had, kind of shady backgrounds. So anyone who did a little background check on most of these people would see that they didn't know what they were talking about or had some serious issues in their past. So we'll see what happens if they ever get any of their money back. But it was the SEC considers that securities fraud because you lied to investors, and it's an unregistered sale of securities because they were selling, an investment opportunity to investors without either registering it with the SEC or doing it under an exemption, such as 506C under Reg D for a public, which sounds like they were doing this publicly, trying to raise capital, which you would do under 506C in most cases as an exempt offering. So that's what's going on with that, and seems like I'll probably have more to talk about of more fraud, and fraud as more of this stuff keeps coming out from crypto and blockchain. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.